In this video, we are going to be reviewing solving equations. So if we start with example number 1, remember we talked about if it's easiest for you to draw your barrier going down. Remember we want to leave the x value where it is, and we want to get rid of the positive 6. So instead of plus 6, we're going to do the opposite, which is minus 6 from both sides. So 6 take away 6 is 0. So we have an x left, and then 10 minus 6 would be 4. And that's the solution to our first example. In our next example, we have to leave our x where it is, and we want to get rid of our minus 3. The opposite operation for minus 3 is plus 3. So 3 and a negative 3 would be 0, so we have x equals negative 6. Example number 2 are the multi-step equations. These were the one that we talked with Mrs. Bauer, and she had our example of crossing the street. So the first thing we do is we leave the 3x alone, and the opposite of negative 4 would be positive 4, so we're going to add 4 to each side. So we have 3x because 4 and negative 4 would be 0 equals 15. And then we want to get rid of the 3. The 3 is attached to the x by multiplication. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. 15 divided by 3 would be 5. So x is equal to 5. In our next example, we want to leave the 2/3 x, and we want to do the opposite of 6, which is a negative 6. So we have 2/3 x is equal to 3. Now, remember when the fraction bar means divide, so we're dividing by 3, so the opposite of dividing by 3 would be multiplying by 3. 3 times and 3 divide are opposite operations, so now we have 2x is equal to 9. And then to get rid of the 2, the opposite of multiply is to divide, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 9 over 2, or we can put this as 4.5 or 4.5. And that would be our solution to this equation in example number 2. Example number 3 is where, still in part 2, we were doing the distributive property. So remember, to distribute is to multiply times everything inside the parentheses. We took 2 times x and we get 2x. 2 times 5 equals 10. And then that equals 14. We are able to draw our barrier. And we do, looking like the ones we previously did, the opposite of 10 is a negative 10 or minus 10. So 10 and a negative 10 would be 0. So we have 2x is equal to 14 minus 10 is 4. Then we have 2x, which means multiply, and the opposite of multiply is divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 2, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our solution is 2. In our next example, you remember that we had variables on both sides. So this is, remember when we did the balance scale? So I want to get rid of 2 of the unknowns. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. 5x take away 2x's is 3x. And that equals negative 6. So now it looks the same as the ones we've done before. The opposite of a negative 4 is a positive 4. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So we have 3x is equal, and remember, negative 6 plus 4. If you owe me $6 and you have $4, you still owe me $2. Then the opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide by 3. And sometimes our answers are left as fractions. So our solution is going to be x is equal to negative 2/3. In our last 2 examples, we are doing combining like terms before we start. So here we have a 3x and a 2x. 3x plus 2x is 5x. We'll write down the rest of our equation, and now it looks like the examples that we already did. The opposite of negative 5 is a positive 5, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we have 5x is equal to negative 10. Then the opposite of multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. So x is equal to negative 2, and that's going to be the solution to this equation. In our next example, we're going to add the 6x and the negative 2x together. So 6x and negative 2x is 4x. And we write down the rest of our equation. We're going to put our barrier wall that helps us to know which side is the right side and which is the left. And now we have 4x on this side and we have an x on this side. So remember, we had our teeter-totter. We wanted to get rid of one of the x's. So we would do the opposite, which is to subtract x from both sides. 4x take away x is 3x. And then we're going to subtract 8 from both sides, which is the opposite of positive 8. So we have 3x equals negative 3. And now we're going to divide both sides by 3. And so x is equal to negative 1. And that's the solution to our equation. And that ends our review of solving equations.